Oh, a flamingo!
Internet, you stand accused of not watching enough Flamingo airstrike.
So we are presently in the lineup for Stan Lee. We've been here since around a bit before 9 o'clock. It's almost 11 now, so we're probably going to be here for another hour to 2 hours. Good times.
Yeah, that's right. After a nice solid 3 hours into that, I've got it. Signature Stan Lee. Yeah. I think I almost passed out after I got out of that line. I had to stop because I was feeling really lightheaded. I mean, wow. So, this is going on my wall, and it's not coming down.
Yo, Steve Blum here, with my pal Benjamin. And here's a little piece of advice. When the chips are down and you're about to meet your end, there's only one thing you can do that will show your enemies that you are still the one going out on top. Bang.
What interested me in becoming a comic book artist was, well, first my love of art. My earliest memories were of drawing, and I love superhero cartoons. And by the time I was in 8th grade, I started collecting comics, starting with the Secret Wars. I bought a 3-pack at Target with issues 7, 8, and 9, so I got the middle of the story. And but just seeing all those heroes together was just really exciting. And so I started trying to create my own superheroes. And by the time I was a freshman in high school, I made my first mini comic book, and that was what sealed the deal. I knew that night, this is what I want to do for a living. Don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to start the journey, and it's been my passion ever since. I've been inspired by a lot of artists. I mean, I love comic book art, love seeing what guys and gals create. But when I first started collecting comics as a kid in the 80s, big X-Men fan. So my top 4 influences, easy for me to list, would be Arthur Adams, Alan Davis, Walter Simonson, and Rick Leonardi. So those guys back from the 80s, and I still enjoy their work here even to this day, were the guys that really set the foundation of what I wanted to do. I just really took to their art and their style initially, and so they were my biggest influences for sure. The favorite project I've been involved in, I probably would say, I've gotten to work on so many great projects, it's hard to narrow it down to one. I love doing Young Justice because I love those characters, I love team books. Working with Peter David was an honor. I'm a big fan of Impulse there in the late 90s, so getting to draw a book that starred one of my favorite characters at the time was a big thrill. But being a longtime Spider-Man fan, it's been great getting to do so many Spider-Man comics. And being a huge X-Men fan, which is where I started reading comics as a teenager, you know, being influenced by so many X-Men artists, getting to draw Nightcrawler, one of my top 5 favorite X-Men, plus getting to work with Chris Claremont, the writer I started reading at age 13, that's like almost like a childhood dream bucket list sort of opportunity. So those would be some of my favorite, as well as doing my own creator-owned book, Wild Guard, was a lot of fun, because when you create something from scratch, you write it, you draw it, it's your baby, that holds a special place in your heart. So hard to nail it down to one. I don't know if I really have any really frustrations necessarily. I love drawing. I have a passion for drawing. I do it when I'm not working. I work all day drawing my comics, and then when I'm done drawing, I draw some more for fun. So I really love drawing. I've had so many great experiences with different publishers, whether it be Image Comics, where I got my start, DC Comics, Marvel Comics, so many great people that I've worked with. I don't know if I could say I have any frustration. You know, sometimes the deadlines can get a little tight, but you know, even then, I'm still so thankful to get to be doing what I'm doing, knowing how many people want to do this job. So I count it as a blessing all the way through. Let's see. Well, Peter David. Working with Peter David is the writer I've worked with the most for writers that I've worked with. So on 5 years on Young Justice, and then he's the one that asked me to replace Mike Ringo when he left Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I was the artist to replace Mike, who I loved Mike's work, and so having that friendship with Peter and having those years working with him on Young Justice when I started on Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, it's like we picked up where we left off on Young Justice, just in our creative interaction. So it felt like Young Justice number 56, but it stars Spider-Man, and none of the Young Justice characters are there. It's just like reuniting with an old friend, and no time has passed. So I'd say, I mean, I've worked with a lot of great writers and writers that have been a lot of fun to work with, like people that I've admired, like Chris Claremont and Louise Simonson. I love Louise Simonson's work from when I was growing up with New Mutants and X Factor, one of my favorite comic books, the 80s X Factor. Honored to work with her, Tom DeFalco, friends like Jeff Johns, Zeb Wells, Jay Torres. So many great writers I've gotten to work with, but the one I've probably worked with the longest and the closest would be Peter David. I get that question quite a bit from my friends and fans on my different social media. I would say at Marvel, Kitty Pryde. I'd love to do a book that stars Kitty Pryde. I think she's a fantastic character. I've grown up with that character. She was a teenager when I was a teenager, so I kind of had a little bit of a crush on her. So, she's a character I just really think is a fantastic character. I'd love to draw a Kitty Pryde series or an X-Men series starring Kitty Pryde. Over at DC, though, big fan of Booster Gold and Blue Beetle. So Justice League International, Guy Gardner, Fire, Ice, Martian Manhunter, something like that would be a lot of fun to do. So those would be the two that I'd really, I would list as characters I'd really like to get to draw.
Thank you very much.
Hey, my pleasure.
There ain't no party like a Thranduil party, because a Thranduil party don't stop. All aboard the party elk.